My topic is on the evolution of pop punk. This picture is of Iggy Pop, known as the godfather of punk, who was in multiple bands, but the most prominent was the Stooges. I think this crowd really gives a good representation of punk and people's love for it. What is pop punk music? Pop punk is a subgenre of the punk movement and incorporates elements of punk rock with pop. It combines the speed and loud guitar with melodies and lyrical themes of pop. Although I did try to give a definition, defining music is pretty hard, especially for a genre that has so many subcategories, and I just want you guys to remember that while listening to the rest of my presentation. Origins. The new wave began in the 70s with punk rock and the new wave scene. Punk rock could be classified as upbeat, loud, melodic music, and the new wave scene could be classified as rock with pop and often combines with disco and electronic music. Some examples of bands from these genres include the Ramones and Generation X. The 80s introduced hardcore punk, classified by loud, angry vocals along with distorted guitars and breakdowns. There are also subcategories within these genres. Main hardcore influences of pop punk from this time include Minor Threat and Youth of Today. In between, hardcore punk and punk rock led to the creation of a few bands that just didn't have the same characteristics. Some examples include Bad Religion and The Descendants. The 90s, pop punk emerges. The first wave of the genre. Most bands didn't do great and used DIY approaches in their music. You could tell in their sound that they recorded music themselves, which is now even a popular sound. Independent record labels began to spring up, like Fat Wreck Chords and Epitaph Records, which grew greatly over time. Popular bands signed under Fat Wreck Chords include The Descendants and Rise Against. Popular bands signed under Epitaph Records include Bad Religion, The Offspring, and Social Distortion. Early 90s, pop punk began having success under Lookout Records. The label found itself in the middle of the genre. Multiple bands were under some record labels, but you'll notice that over time they go to new ones. The mid 90s, gaining more popularity. The beginning of some bands released albums with big record labels. Green Day released their debut album, 39 Smooth, under Lookout Records, eventually selling 10 million copies and going diamond. The clip included is a song called Green Day off the debut album, which is the song that changed their name. The Offspring released Smash, sold 6 million copies under Epitaph Records. The music started getting played on the radio and MTV, and attracted attention from major record labels for more punk. These punk bands would often tour with pop punk bands. The late 90s to the early 2000s, greatest time for pop punk, it completely blew up. Sum 41 and New Found Glory were often played on the radio. New Found Glory even signed to a major record label, Drive Thru Records. Blink 182 became a big success after the release of Enema of the State in 1999. Sum 41 and Blink 182 were commonly seen on MTV during this time. The video below is Sum 41's Pieces off their 2004 album Chuck. I said, if you believe it's in my soul, I'd say all the words that I know, just to see if it would show that. The mid 2000s. Definition of pop punk becomes more obscure with the new bands and new sounds. Taking Back Sunday and My Chemical Romance took the scene by storm by adding a darker, more depressing tone than pop punk had ever seen. It's now considered a subgenre, emo, which led to the rise of the emo scene. Emo bands would often tour with pop punk bands. The fusion of pop punk and emo led to the rise of drive-through records. The picture in the lower right corner is Taking Back Sunday. The late 2000s. The genre underwent changes and artists began taking back the sound. New Found Glory and the Wonder Years began to recreate it. It attracted attention from iconic record labels like Hopeless and Rise. Popular bands signed under Hopeless include All Time Low, Moose Blood, and Neck Deep. Popular bands signed under Rise include Knuckle Puck and Sleeping with Sirens. Bands like Green Day continued to use new sounds and still had great success. Many pop punk bands also began to fuse their sound with traditional hardcore bands, with the use of breakdowns and double bass drums, sometimes considered easycore. Today, there's a number of bands reviving the genre, like Real Friends, Modern Baseball, and Knuckle Puck. This raises the question of how the sound will change, if it'll stay underground, and what subgenres will come from it. The final clip is a classic pop punk song called Your Graduation by Modern Baseball.
It's been 30 whole years of me thinking about you every day. Sometimes for hours, sometimes in passing. Saw you from the bottom of the staircase. Stood out for hours as you complained about how you haven't seen your friends yet. That you're too drunk to stand and you not knowing if you can love him forever.